ominous music there.
Yeah, I thought that too. It played a little bit slower. It kind of worked to our advantage there.
Yes.
Hey, everyone. I am Mac. That's Jeremiah over there. We are going to be doing a preview for all of the Halloween events we have coming up. I know it is August 22nd right now, but Central Florida and some of California, Halloween starts in August. So,
Some
that's
of Halloween's already started here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So before we get into everything, I do want to give a warning. This is going to be focused on the spooky events. We've already covered Mickey's Not So Scary. It's fantastic. I highly recommend checking it out. We have a vlog up. Jeremiah, myself, and Luke all had a great time at Mickey's Not So Scary recently, so you can check that out on our YouTube channel. But we're going to be focusing on the scary, on the horror element of Halloween in this video here. So if you're not into horror, if you don't want to see any of those images, this is not the video for you. But again,
we're not going to have dead bodies or any of that kind of stuff. The publicity stuff that they put out.
Exactly. The marketing that comes directly from Universal and SeaWorld and Busch Gardens and things like that. I will say we are primarily going to be focusing on Halloween Horror Nights. So that is going to be what we're talking about for most of this video. And let's get started, I guess, with Orlando. Want to jump right into this?
So we might as well. I mean, that is the biggest of them all.
Yeah.
How many houses do we have total this year? Is it
10? We have 10 haunted houses. We have 5 scare zones and 2 shows. This is all going to be coming from Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Florida. So, it's like Jeremiah said, it's the biggest one of them all. It's sort of the pinnacle of Halloween events right here. So,
it's not the one that started it all, but I want to say it's the one that's kind of shaped it all. I mean, we'll talk about Not Scary Farm, the one that originated it all later on, but I talk to people that are horror Nights fans, and they plan their entire vacation around making sure they can be out to Universal Orlando for this. And this event does start on September 2nd. Isn't that tomorrow? Thank goodness.
Almost. I mean, we are less than 2 weeks away from the start of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Florida. Real quick before we dive into the house lineup, Kyle, thank you. We do what we can. Doobie points out that this is scary. So you be the judge. It's some people are into horror, some are not.
Yeah, and you can tell by Mac and I, we're kind of showing our geekdom. I've been doing Horror Nights, Not Scary Farm, everything for pretty much since I was a teenager. So it's been nonstop. This is the time I wait for. I know that you've been coming down here for Horror Nights for the past few years before you moved out, right?
I wasn't actually. My first time going to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal was 2017. Got my sign right back here from that year. That was when I moved down here. So I wasn't able to go to the event before that. But so I have been going for 5 years now, and really, really excited for this year. So Jeremiah, you said you've been going to things like Not Scary Farm since the late 30s. Is that what you're saying? Since you were a teenager, right around there.
Yeah. Wow. And thank you, Doobie, for that. Yes. Since the mid 90s, I want to say, is some of my first. No, it was actually late 80s. Yes.
Okay.
So I got to watch Not Scary Farm go through its early days to where it became the standout to what it is today, which is still my favorite. I watched Universal Hollywood go through. They are now on their 3rd iteration of their Horror Nights. I never made it to the first one, but the second one actually worked many of the nights. And then this one I've been out to many times. But enough about our history. Let's dive into the fun. Which do you want to start with first, Mac? The scare zones or the houses?
Let's dive right into the houses here. I've got the whole lineup ready to go. And we're going to start off with what I think is probably the big IP this year, the one that's going to draw the most fans to the event. And that is The Weeknd After Hours Nightmare. So I'll read you the quick description, and then Jeremiah and I will sort of break it down a little bit and share our thoughts. It's music to your fears. You love his music, but can you survive his mind? The Weeknd is about to stalk your squad through the haunted house, a surreal living nightmare from his After Hours videos. His nightmare is now yours. So are you familiar? How familiar are you with The Weeknd, Jeremiah?
I've heard their music. I've not watched any of the actual music videos that this is all coming off of. I mean, the iconic video for this year is the Slasher Nurses. So that's kind of where I've gotten it. And of course, Tony, who decided to put up our splash screen for this, went off the Super Bowl halftime show of him running through that. So that's what we're expecting this house to be, just running through with a camera on our face doing this.
Yeah, I do hope that's at least an element of it, because that would just be, people would love that. I am looking forward to this one. I know people are sort of mixed on it and don't really see, you don't think of horror when you think of The Weeknd. But I have watched some of the music videos. They definitely have horror elements to them. And I mean, a lot of his music is really fun. So I think it's going to bring the energy to Halloween Horror Nights this year for sure, I think.
I always worry about something like this. And, in the past, they've done different bands and different musical people. That came out horrible. And the houses are always iffy. I mean, this one does have a lot of potential because of The Weeknd, and they do seem to be horror fans. So hopefully we'll walk into this and walk out and want to get right back in line.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to it. Like I said, it's I don't expect this to be the scariest, although I have been told, maybe up my standards for that one a little bit, because it is going to be scarier than people think. We'll see. That remains to be seen. But I do think it's going to be fun regardless. We are going to share our hype lists, the ones that the houses we are most excited for. So I'm interested to see where this falls on both of our lists. But real quick, want to catch up on a few comments. Manny says the one I'm most excited for is Mickey's Not So Scary. We won't be breaking down Mickey's Not So Scary. We do have videos on our YouTube channel as already for that event. Tony points out that we are starting with the biggest event, and in the middle we'll be talking about Count Van Count's Corn Maze at Sesame Place. Hey, don't sleep on Howl-o-scream SeaWorld. As you know, Tony, SeaWorld absolutely crushed Howl-o-scream, and we will talk about that a little bit later.
Yes.
And then Kyle is just making some music jokes that always go over my head, although this one I understand. So
yeah, don't even bother with Tony's next one. Just don't. If you're questioning why we're talking about these comments, please go into our YouTube channel and watch it, and then comment there. We'll definitely respond, or just ignore you if your name is Tony.
That doesn't go for all Tonys. If your name is Tony, you can still comment.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to our next house. It's another big IP, and this is Halloween. Before I read you the description real quick, Jeremiah, have you listened to the Inside Universal podcast at all, like the official Universal Orlando podcast?
I have not, and I keep wanting to. That could be something I listen to in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But that podcast is something, if you're a Universal fan, it is a great listen. And it's usually not that long, but they hit on big things that are coming, what's going on. I can only imagine they're in depth about the Horror Nights, because again, this is the biggest event of the year for them.
Yeah, and so one of the big issues people had with Halloween is they've done Halloween before, right? Michael Myers has had a presence in Halloween Horror Nights, and they explained they had the creators or some of the creative team on the podcast, and they explained that this year, with it being this is the event number 31 for Universal Orlando. So October 31st, Halloween, they're going to focus on classic Halloween. So there you go. Bring the movie Halloween to the event this year of all years. It makes a lot of sense. Let me give you the description real quick. His beginning is your end. Silent, merciless, relentless. There's nobody like Michael Myers. And if your Scream Squad is ready this year, you can gather together and face the terror of Halloween from the very beginning. I am excited for this one. This they did this about, I think it was 8 years ago. I think
Mhm.
2014 is when they had the first Halloween movie as a house. And I got to experience in 2017 when they did Halloween 4. I have never seen the original, so I'm really excited to get into this. I love the movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies. I'm a big fan of slashers, so this is great. I'm really looking forward to it.
The interesting thing about this house, I can't believe it's been 8 years since the first one, and I can remember going that and kind of walking through, going, okay, it's Halloween. Halloween isn't really the scariest of the movies. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. Halloween is much more slasher, maybe a quick jump. I can remember jumping enough times in this house where I walked out and went, yeah, that was a good house. Um, for me, Halloween, to the point that they brought that they're focusing on it. It's been 8 years. It's great. But I've always thought that, we've kind of run out of the Halloween movies. And then we just brought back the new Halloweens, which I would love to see them focus more on that house, Jamie Lee Curtis's house in the movie. But going back to the original, I'm fine with it. It's not going to be the number one on my list, but I will definitely be heading over there at some point.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, and as Doobie asks, will Mac be recording his instant reaction to all the house this year? It wasn't me. It was also Jeremiah and Tony as well. We all shared our thoughts on the houses. And yeah, if we are interested in sharing that again, I'd absolutely love to do that. We, of course, will have tons of coverage from Halloween Horror Nights as the event goes throughout the Halloween season here. Let's move on to our next house. And again, another IP. It's mostly original houses this year, but we're kind of starting off with the IP here. And the next one is The Horrors of Blumhouse. This is a banner they've used for some of their houses before, but 2 new movies being featured. Twice the Screams, Twice the Terror. Get ready for a blood-curdling new double feature of Blumhouse's horror as your Scream Squad. Sorry, I keep getting tripped up on Scream Squad because it's a funny little marketing term they have.
Oh yeah, that marketing is getting out of hand. We need the shirts of we're part of the Scream Squad.
As your Scream Squad faces a ruthless serial killer in Freaky and an evil kidnapper in the relentlessly terrifying The Black Phone. Have you seen those 2 movies, Jeremiah?
I've not seen either one. And that's usually the case with the Blumhouses, where I'm like, I've seen maybe one, and they do a great job on focusing on the movies in the past houses, where it's like each of the, they've done one where I believe it was 3 movies, and it was kind of the movie done in 2 scenes each. So they do a great job. I'm going to try to catch these 2 movies before September 2nd, because I like walking in and actually knowing what we're looking at. And hopefully it'll give me some more excitement for this one, because in the past, these houses have been very low on my list.
That's fair. And it is difficult to get excited for movies you haven't seen before. I will say Freaky is fantastic. It is a slasher horror, but it's also a dark comedy. It's a body switching movie where a teenage girl switches bodies with a serial killer.
Oh, then yes, I have. That was a couple of years ago.
Yes, it was.
It's been so out of the range, but then again, that was also 2020. I want to say 2019. So, yeah, that was a good.
Yeah, like that, yeah. I really enjoyed the movie, so I'm excited to see it in the house. The Black Phone is a newer movie. I believe might still be in theaters now, or maybe just ended its run. That is Ethan Hawke is the villain, the guy you see in the mask there. So I am looking forward to first seeing that movie. As I always do my homework before going into Halloween Horror Nights, make sure I watch all of the stuff. Not a whole lot to watch this year going into this year's event, but I am definitely excited to watch The Black Phone at some point in the near future. So yeah, I think I do agree with you though that this one is going to be a little bit lower on my list, but I'm looking forward to it. I will say too, there's no part of this event that we're not excited for. No. It's just some things are going to be more exciting than others. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, we cover, Matt covers Marvel, I cover the parks all the time. But I want to say probably the thing that does get us the most amped is Horror Nights, because it's something we have to wait an entire year for it. And by the time it rolls around for the announcements, we're both just chomping at the bit for it.
Oh, every year opening weekend, my wife and I stay at a hotel on Universal property. The morning of opening night is Christmas morning for me. So
Yeah.
that's my favorite day of the year. Let's move on to our fourth house here, and that is going to be half IP, half original, Universal Monsters Legends Collide. And this is going to be focused on the three monsters you see there. They've done a lot with the Universal Monsters in recent events, but kind of giving us a different angle for this one. It's the Wolfman versus Dracula versus the Mummy. If you thought one Universal monster was scary, how about three? Summon your Scream Squad. Can we play a Halloween drinking game, or do we
need a counter?
Because you're about to get caught between the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy together for the first time. How do you feel about that? How have you enjoyed the Universal Monsters houses in recent years, and are you excited for this one?
I love Universal Monsters. I mean, my stance on classic movies are they're classic because nobody goes back and watches them. Because if you go back and watch the original Dracula, Mummy, Wolfman, they aren't scary. They're more amazing for their time. But I think that at this point, the mythology, before Universal made the monster films, there were books, but Universal owns horror movies as far as the classics go.
Mm-hmm.
So this one I think is going to be top notch. I've loved Bride of Frankenstein. The past 2 years was one of my favorite houses. I think I did that more than any other one. So this one, I hope that it's kind of like Monster Squad, where they're just everywhere. Not you walk in one room, it's Mummy. Walk in the next room, it's Dracula, and then the Wolfman.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is an original story to this house too. That they're not just throwing them all in there and scaring you in different rooms. The whole story here is that the Mummy is the keeper of an amulet that grants some sort of power. It would grant Dracula the ability to go out during the day, and it would cure the Wolfman of his moon curse. And so they're both trying to get the amulet. The Mummy is trying to keep it from them. So they're all going to be fighting over that. So I like that they came up with this original story. It's so creative. I'm really excited for this house.
Kyle, if you made that shirt, I would wear it every night I went to Horror Nights.
There's and Doobie, yes, of course. We are the LP Scream Squad, no question.
Yes. And then you'll be joining us at some point also, Doobie.
Yes. I think Luke too. Luke might be part of the Scream Squad this year too. We'll see. Okay, let's get into the 6 original houses. And again, they are focusing on classic Halloween this year. So why not have some witches? Spirits of the Coven. They're bewitchingly terrifying. A coven of beautiful flapper witches will lure you into their 1920s speakeasy, reveal their haggish true form, and turn your Scream Squad into witch's brew. They'll be cackling, you'll be screaming. So how do you feel about this one?
All of the new ones I am looking forward to. Each of them have one little thing that caught my eye that I'm like, okay, that's going to make it even better. And the fact that it's a speakeasy in the 20s with flappers, I can't for the life of me think of what house it was last year that had the singer, and we walked in. It was
Legendary Truth.
Yes, yeah, and I can only see that being expanded into this, and hopefully this is as amazing as I want it to be.
Yeah, I will admit, I think just hearing that there was going to be like a witch themed house, that's I wasn't really excited about that concept. Like that doesn't excite me. But the fact that it's a 1920s speakeasy, that is so cool. I think the costumes are going to be amazing. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, they always do great when they do a period piece. I mean, you think of when they've done the scare zones in the 80s and 90s and 70s, it's always, above and beyond where you want to be there more. So I think almost all the houses this year have that small touch or that small theme that I think is going to make them stand out above a lot of the past ones.
Yeah. Tony, chimes in. This was Tony's joke. I won't take credit for it, but he referred to Legendary Truth as Schuster's short stories last year. So had to throw that out there. Also, Kyle pointing out if only there were more Orlando-based entertainment themed to a speakeasy. Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah.
All right, this next one, I am really interested to get your thoughts, and there's a lot of buzz about this house right now.
Oh, come on, Tony.
This is Bugs Eaten Alive. All right, let me read you the description first.
Yeah.
These bugs are out to exterminate you. While touring a 1950s home of the future, you'll be surrounded by the slime of bugs everywhere as hordes of many-legged terrors descend upon you and your Scream Squad. You'll be dropping like flies. I was not excited about this house when it first got announced. The idea of a bug-themed house, not something that I'm going to be drawn to, like moth to a flame. But there has been, and I made the joke before, but this time I'm not even really joking. There's been a lot of buzz about this house, and actually mentioned during the Universal podcast, the creators were saying they had a hard time walking through this house without performers in it. They are planning to wait at the exit of this house and just watch people's reaction as they get out. They also challenged themselves to make a house people couldn't get through. So I'm really excited to see how people react to this one.
Again, this is one of those ones where the initial concept, not so much. You throw in 50s House of the Future as the theme location, I'm so in. I don't have a big bug problem. I mean, they've done houses where bugs have been prevalent in the past, but nothing that was seriously all about the bugs. So I am excited for this. Also, I'm excited that they're reusing the Defender bug in the corner for the logo. That's nice. The old video game Defender.
Okay.
But yeah, I really wish that we had a map so we could figure out where these are, because I see this being one of the tent houses.
Yeah.
Which will either be stand out or really hold it back some. So I would love to see this be more the warehouse behind Woody's and Curious George, so it has its own entire house. But even if it is one of the tent houses, I think they do a great job with those also. But make sure you go on those after sunset.
Yes, that's definitely true. That's kind of the case for all of the houses, though, or make sure you wear sunglasses going in at least before that. But yeah, I wanted to say, too, that back corner back there by Men in Black Alien Attack, yes, there are two houses there that are located inside of tents. They also coincidentally end up being intense houses. They always surprise. Like, you always go in with a lower expectation thinking, well, this isn't in a sound stage, it's in a tent, they can't do as much. They always blow us away. Some of my favorite houses have been in that back corner. So this feels like it would be one of the houses back there. I think that's going to be the case. TV says this will definitely be the scariest house.
Okay, we're going to start fining every LP crew member for bad puns. So...
Oh, come on, Jeremiah. Are these puns bugging you?
Oh, stop. Buzz off. There you go. You get one from me.
All right, let's move on to our next house here. This is going to be Fiesta de Chupacabras. Listen to your abuela and beware the chupacabras. Visit a Latin American village where the legend of the creature Chupacabras is celebrated with a colorful fiesta, and the streets are lined with the crimson blood of tourists like you and your amigos.
Shouldn't it be?
But this is interesting. I'm expecting very Day of the Dead vibes, very colorful, very nice looking house. Interesting note from the story that they explained in the podcast that they did not explain here is that this town is actually throwing this party as a tourist trap. Like, they are literally luring tourists in because they are appeasing the chupacabras with the blood of these tourists. So it's not just going to be the creatures that are after you, but the locals as well. So that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, this is one of those houses. I want to say Universal every 2 years, 3 years has to do some type of Spanish themed house so they can keep that facade in pristine condition that they always put out there. And just like you said, these are the houses that are in the tents, and we always kind of go, okay, this isn't going to be good, and then we walk out being blown away.
Yeah.
This theme is definitely one of the furthest out there themes I think of almost any houses. Well, that's the definition of this year, but the chupacabra, as somebody who's from California, is, it is very much like the mythical creature, but it's a chupacabra. Everybody thinks the chupacabra is like that big. So I can only imagine this will be where they have the bear somehow, and he'll look like a chupacabra with a mask on. Go ahead and use that Universal. You guys can have that one.
Yeah, I am excited for the potential use of puppets in this one. I'm really interested to see what they do with that, and just character and creature design in general for this house. And again, like I said, I think this is going to be very colorful and might end up being one of the nicer looking houses.
Yeah, they always have the pretty houses that aren't the scariest, but you want to go through to try to catch the detail.
Oh, I have a different pick for that one, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, me also, but I think this one will definitely be one of the ones that is the bright and fun.
Yeah, agreed. Our next one is going to be Hellblock Horror. As these monsters escape their prison, there's no escape for you. Enter a prison whose savage inmates are monstrous creatures. If they break free from their cells, it's a death sentence for everyone. This is a really interesting one. We won't go into some details that have been floating around out there, but this is a cool concept that it's a prison for monsters and opens the door for a lot of Horror Nights history. Really, like you might see a lot of familiar creatures in this one, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I hope that they go that way. They make their money off of the past icons. So if they throw in a couple of icons in there, all the better, and then sets up for next year with having those. This is one of those ones that I do hope they go that way, because if not, and if it is just kind of silly monsters, or not silly monsters, but zombies, this could definitely fall low on the list.
I think you're going to end up seeing a little bit of everything in this house. And I definitely expect to see some familiar faces, if you want to call it that, on these creatures. But yeah. I don't necessarily think the icons, but I think creatures from scare zones. You think of like the scare zone they did last year in the Hollywood area. That was sort of, with it being the anniversary year, they kind of just brought back a whole bunch of familiar scare zone, the Shrieks and Foons, the aliens from Invasion, and stuff like that. I think you'll see a lot of that in this house, and I'm excited for that. It's pretty interesting.
They could always throw in somebody with a mask and a chainsaw, and I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Tony points out maybe we should explain the bear for those who don't know. There has been a HHN bear. He's popped up in a lot of different locations. What house was it? Was it Scary Tales? The first Scary Tales house?
I think it was Scary Tales. I would really have to go back and look at each year. There have been houses where he's been a full scare, and there have definitely been times where he's made me jump. And then last year they put him in the tribute store, so they kind of retired him, but we may see him pop back up. It is a giant full-size stuffed bear in cases, or it's somebody running around.
There have been different iterations. Like, it was a bear costume type thing, and then it was also a gold statue in the tribute store, and there's been different types, but always some sort of homage to the HHN bear. All right, 2 more houses to get through here, and this is the one that I alluded to as what I think is going to be the pretty house this year, which is Dead Man's Pier, Winter's Wake. You're dead in the water in a New England fishing village. Undead fishermen emerge from the waves to seek their revenge. You and your Scream Squad may have escaped their hooks in the scare zone. Now they'll reel you in and drag you under. So Dead Man's Pier, they're referencing a scare zone from, I want to say 2016. I think it was before I got to go. It was Dead Man's Wharf, located in the San Francisco area of the park.
Yes.
So now they are turning it into a house, and I am so excited. I think this is going to be just, one of those facades that you walk in and it just blows you away. I am really excited to see this one.
I really hope that it it falls into some of the houses in the past where they've not only played with the visuals, but with the set itself, where, hopefully some of the pier has fallen in. So you're walking around on an angle. Yes, it's a nightmare for the ADA and some of the guests, but they always do the walk around for that.
Yeah.
But just those added touches. Again, every one of these houses has the potential to be an amazing set. And, I think I can speak confidently that both you and I take a lot to get us scared. We now do these houses more to see what's happening and to look at the visuals. So I think Winter's Wake will probably be like you said, the one that is the beautiful with the full set design. Hopefully they bring in the sound system that surrounds you for some of it. I think this one could be the sleeper, but we're still waiting on my top choice.
Well, yeah, I am really excited. I think this is going to be, it's a winter storm in a fishing village. I think it's just going to be very, very nice, to look at. And that's my favorite thing about the houses is, like you said, I'm not really going in for the scares. I'm going for the design and just to take in all the stuff, all the work that they put into this event that then just gets torn down after a few months. But I also, one more plug for the Universal Orlando podcast. They are now doing individual episodes that are telling you a story based on all of these original houses. And the only episode they've released so far was about Dead Man's Pier. And it is fantastic. It's like a dramatic reading of this original story they created. It's so good. Definitely recommend checking that out.
And we will get the links to those in our YouTube notes, Tony.
As Tony points out, I think it's predicted best, not so much a sleeper. I do think a lot of the HHN community, at least, but I think the typical guests probably won't look into this. They're going to be coming in looking for Halloween and the weekend, and then I think this will probably blow them away. But Tony's probably right. I think I've heard most people talk about this one.
And this one will definitely be in one of the sound stages, so they can have that AC that just freezes you after being outside in the 110 degrees.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Our final house, and the one that clearly you are very excited about, is going to be Descendants of Destruction. Deeper, darker, deadlier. Careful not to leave any of your Scream Squad behind. Last one. That's the last one. As you descend the subway tunnels of a deserted New York, lurking in the dark are hungry mutants looking to feast on the last remnants of humanity. So this is like a post-apocalyptic New York. Humans have descended into the tunnels to try and survive the apocalypse and have over time mutated. And so I am definitely looking forward to this. It's an interesting concept, but clearly, take it away. You're excited about this one.
This one, I want to say, will probably be the most detailed. And I can almost guarantee this is a tent one. Just from what they'll probably put in there. Somehow, hopefully, though, I do hope that it ends up in a sound stage, and we see the return of maybe a subway car from, Earthquake.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thoughts that are in my head of what they can do with this. I would love, and I know this is never going to happen, if they did build a double layer to actually go down the stairs somehow to get down into the subway.
Yeah.
But this one, I feel the two things that are going to have working for it are the sights, or the lack of visuals and the sound, because I can almost guarantee there will be almost pitch black rooms and sounds that will be all around you, because this one, I think, will be the chance for them to show off that it's not just about the people jumping. It's also, we can scare you with the visuals.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. Also, Tony makes a good point, or the subway car from Dead Exposure Patient Zero. That was one of my favorite rooms in that house, and that was one of my favorite houses. So pretty safe bet that'll return as well, I think. I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's a cool story. It feels like something that's at least like the base concept of this has been done in haunted houses before, but I trust Universal to absolutely take it to the next level and just, blow us away with it. So
and I think that's one of the things. This is one of those concepts that they've never really done, especially if they do tight spaces, which, they can never do that tight of space. But to funnel people into, a subway tunnel going down, or the little walkways to escape. It has the potential, and I know we're not supposed to say this word anymore. It has the potential to be a good maze also.
Yeah, don't expect it to actually be a maze and get lost in there. But, yeah, I get what you're saying. All right, those are the 10 houses. Let's take a look at our hype list, and hopefully you guys can actually read this on here. Hopefully it's big enough. But
oh, look at that! Yes.
So here is our hype list for Universal Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights this year. Jeremiah, Descendants of Destruction is his number one. Mine is Dead Man's Pier, the last two we just talked about. So, yeah, any take a look at our list here. Any big takeaways, any questions in the comments, feel free to let us know. But we kind of agree on, we're really looking forward to these original concepts. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely excited about Halloween because, like I said, I never got to experience it the first time. Totally understand why people who have been going longer than I have wouldn't be looking forward to it. But it's like I said, one of my favorite movies. But aside from that, I'm looking forward to a lot of the original houses. I will say Bugs Eaten Alive would have been number 10 on my list. I was not into the concept at all. And then hearing everything going on about this house, it has crawled up to number 6 on
that. Yeah, with mine, I mean, the Universal Monsters, as I said, is always an easy sell for me. If they just decided to go back to the old school of Horror Nights, the basic monsters, I would be there every single night doing it over and over again. So that's why that one's higher. But yeah, Descendants is definitely the number one that I'm running to. Dead Man's Pier, I think both you and I are really looking forward to that one. Hellblock Horror, I went with just because I see the potential. Spirits, again, the theme. And then, of course, Chupacabra. And then we kind of go down to the IPs for me. Not, again, that I'm not looking forward to them.
Right.
It's just they would not. I also looked at it as what houses will have the lowest weight first and what houses will have the highest weight. And we know the Weekend and Halloween will have the highest weights right away.
Well, yeah, and speaking of which, Jeremiah, explain yourself. Kyle points out that big diss to the Weekend there for you. What is it about the Weekend one that you're just not looking forward to?
It is my fear, as with past, where it's not based off of something scary. It's somebody that loves scary going, hey, I'm going to make this. And then it turns out to be, here's a commercial for their house with lots of loud music.
That's fair. Yeah, it is definitely a different kind of property, but I'm looking forward to just the energy of that house, I think. And I also think it'll be a pretty nice looking house as well. I think they'll do a good, job with the set design on that one. So
yeah, I mean, not to kind of be blunt, but they're getting money for it. So yes,
right.
I can guarantee Halloween, Blumhouse, and the Weekend will be the prettiest houses because corporate sponsorship, IP.
Well, so there you go. That is our breakdown of Universal Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights. The event begins September 2nd and will run through Halloween, fittingly. We will be there pretty much throughout the event. So yes. We'll be bringing you plenty of coverage from that. Let's dive into the other coast and Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal Studios Hollywood. And a lot of the houses will be repeats. So we're not going to break down, spend too much time breaking the houses down there because there's going to be a lot of similarities. But let's start off by talking about the Terror Tram, a staple of Halloween Horror Nights over there. And already shaking your head, you are clearly not excited about the Terror Tram.
So back to my backstory. I worked Universal Horror Nights out there. I was over the tram. So I had to deal with Terror Tram wasn't going full time when I was there. Like we had to take people down to the lower lot. If you're not familiar with Universal Hollywood, there's the upper lot and the lower lot. And we had to find a way to get them to the lower lot when the houses were in different areas, not connected to the lower lot of the theme park. So for me, Terror Tram has always been a big commercial. You get off, you walk by Psycho House. There's an hour wait to get a picture in front of Psycho House. You walk through the War of the World set. and then there's something at the end. This year, I am wanting to do it more, mostly just to get into the Nope, because
Yeah.
I'm guessing they will open up more of the Nope uh, set for guests to walk through. Not that Nope was a big horror film, but that does offer a lot of space up there.
Yeah, it's interesting the two different perspectives we're coming at this with, because you know had that experience with the Terror Tram. For me, going to Universal Orlando so much, and then just maybe once a year getting over to Hollywood and checking out. And like I said, there's so much overlap between the two events. The Terror Tram is the one thing that is absolutely different. We don't have any experience
Mhm.
like that here in Orlando, and so I am really excited for the Terror Tram. It helps that Nope set is incredible, and I haven't seen the movie yet. I am really excited about. I'm really excited about seeing Nope. I want to see that movie. I love the movie Us.
Yes.
Jordan Peele does such a great job with horror, so I'm excited to step back into that movie and to see Nope. I know Nope is a little bit different, but no spoilers. I will see it eventually. So yeah, I'm excited about the Terror Tram. Like I said, it's just so different from anything we get in Orlando.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for when you get off the tram. It is the waiting, and again, this is more on the technical side for me. The waiting an hour to get on the tram, to get off, walk for 15, 20 minutes, and then wait 45 minutes to get back on a tram. It eats up a lot of the night. This is anybody going, this is either first thing you do or you try to get there last thing after you've done the other houses, because it can eat up the rest of the night for you.
Or you have Express, and then you're
Yes.
good to go.
Or you have Express.
All right, so our next house, and I do mean house, not maze. They have changed the terminology. It is house in California now as well. A familiar one to fans from Orlando, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. We had this as a scare zone in Orlando, and then as a house a year later. Talk to me about Killer Clowns. Are you excited for this one?
I am. I'm one of those people that saw Killer Clowns when it came out. I don't think I saw it in the theater. I watched it late night on HBO at one point. Um, so that the scare zone was great. The house I loved. Again, the visuals walking through. I think every time I went, I made a point to do this house, and every time I would notice something different. Going back a few years, American Werewolf in London. We had that house here. It was probably one of the best houses I've ever seen here. They shipped everything out to California. They went through, they redid all their puppets, they redid all the effects. It was amazing out there. They shipped it back out here. They improved it so much. They redid the house here a couple of years later and just made it that much better. So I can only imagine what Killer Clowns out there will be like, because it is, we have some great talent in the houses and the theming and everything. There, they have the actual people who worked on the movie and worked on the sets that can come in and do that type of thing. So it always amps up by 11.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I am a fan of this movie, ridiculous as it is, and it's going to be it's going to have the humor. It's going to be funny, and it's just going to be ridiculous, as you would expect. All right, our next one is an original, but at the same time, a familiar character to Horror Nights fans, La Llorona, the Weeping Woman. I assume you have experienced La Llorona in the past.
So La Llorona is started in California at Hollywood. I want to say it was the second or third year of the event. I can picture it. I had to go behind what at that time was Shrek 4D for that house, and you walked in. If you're not familiar with the story of La Llorona, please go read about it. It is a good story. It is Mexican mythology, I think is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
They did that house out there. They've done it here. I feel like they did it here 12 times. It's probably only been twice, but it's one of those, it's a staple. They can go to it. They know that it has a good story and it has the scare factor. For me, it's just one of those. I've done it, been there, done that. I think I own the shirt. I don't need to go back.
That's fair. I never got to experience this house in either event, so I'm excited to check it out for the first time. But don't know a ton of the Horror Nights. I haven't seen video or anything of the houses, so I'm not sure what it's been like. So it'll be a new experience for me. So I'm looking forward to it.
No, Tony, I took French. this house, I'm going to stop you before you even say anything. This is the number one reason why I want to get out to Hollywood to see it, because this has the potential to blow everything away.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to this one as well. And I'm just realizing I haven't been reading the descriptions for the Hollywood houses, mostly because they were pretty straightforward. But this one, I will let you know, a 1920s Hollywood hotel, once the hunting ground of its infamous serial killer owner, has been turned into a modern-day haunted hotel. Now he's back from the dead. Your first stay will be your last. I really like that concept, and I am very interested to see what they do with this. That opens the door for so many different types of scares, right? You got this serial killer who is back from the dead, but then also it's a haunted hotel. So lots of different things they can do with this one.
Yeah, and calling it Universal Horror means that they can throw in some of the other characters that are not in the Legends house for them.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see what this house entails. It has the potential to be, the nice looking house if they decide to really lean into this extravagant 1920s hotel theme. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the one that you'll come out talking the most about.
Well, we'll see, because there is another one that I'm really interested in, and that is Scarecrow the Reaping. Now, this was my all-time favorite house. Maybe it's between that and Poltergeist. It's really hard to choose. For Orlando, we did Scarecrow the Reaping back in 2017, the first year I attended the event, and now it is just getting over to Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood. Really excited for this one. I'm excited to see what they do with it. We have a video from what is the horror convention in California? Midsummer.
Yes, Midsummer Night's Scream.
Yeah, there you go. Mike Celestino was out there covering that for us, and John Murdy, basically the lead creator behind Horror Nights in Hollywood, talked about this house and how they created some original characters and did some really interesting things with this story. So I'm excited to see what they do for Scarecrow the Reaping.
Yeah, this one, I loved it when it was here. Out there, I can only imagine what they'll do. I know that they've been kind of breaking down. John's been tweeting out. John Murdy is Halloween Horror Nights. Like, he is the face of Horror Nights. He's based out of California, but he definitely, I want to say he has some input out here. He's always been very nice to us, very giving of his time. So follow him on Twitter, Instagram. They haven't said where this house is. This is one of those ones that I would love to be more outside. But one of the things Universal does is they keep everything in their climate control. So this, if it's in one of the sound stages, will be amazing. If it's out in the New York street area, I would love to see that.
Tony brings up an interesting point. He says, I'm curious as to what will happen in California, considering it's superstitious at Universal Creative to actually grow corn, since it legendarily attracts hurricanes. That did happen 2017 when they had the Scarecrow house. There was Hurricane Irma, I believe it was.
And the year that it was, the first year, I want to say it was the only year, I want to say it was Sweet 16. That was when I came out to visit, and they used both Universal and IOA for the event. And they had two scare zones that connected the parks, and one was in the front, and it was going to be a corn maze. And that was the year one of the big hurricanes, Tony can probably tell me what hurricane it was, it ruined that entire thing. They had been growing it for, I want to say they said 6 months, because it's kind of where it was in the front to connect by Seuss and the front of the park over at Universal, and wiped it all out. And I can remember walking through there, and they just said, like, corn stalks on poles. It's like, oh, okay. So yes, it is one of those things, but I don't think they'll be growing the corn in California.
Well, I should mention too that we didn't really talk about scare zones at all. We'll do that briefly after we finish up the house lineup for both events here. But there's Scarecrow is also returning in Orlando as a scare zone that I'm really looking forward to. So we'll see what they do with that too.
Yeah, and just so you know, I did get word from Kyle. He said we can go as long as we want, so we got 5 hours.
All right, got it. We're just going to take all day. Sorry, we're going to have to push Parks Talk back today.
Yeah, go for it. They'll just join in with us. Juvie will pop in, I'm sure, at some point anyway.
Okay, so that is really it for the houses in Hollywood that are actually different from what we saw and what we talked about in Orlando. We are going to have Universal Monsters Legends Collide. Any big differences in Hollywood that you're expecting? I know they do have the soundtrack from Slash for Hollywood.
Yes.
In this one.
Yeah, I love whenever Slash does the soundtracks because it's always fun. Because he did one for Universal Monsters. Was that 2018 when I was out there? And that was one of the first times they did a Universal Monster House out there. It was a very cool. The biggest difference, and you went out in 2019, did you not? Was that when you went out to Universal for Horror Nights?
Hollywood? No, last year, 2021 would have been the last year I attended.
I completely forget that we actually had it last year.
Yeah,
you probably experienced the biggest difference between Florida and California in the immortal words of Walt Disney is they have the blessing of space. Hollywood, their houses can be condensed into a 20 by 20 space where you walk in a constant back and forth. So they lose a lot of the ability to have the larger rooms like we do, but at the same time they turn what they have into pure art.
Yeah, there are some rooms and some of the facades are very nice that they do with the limited amount of space they have. I will say there's a fair amount of black curtain hallways too. But
transition hallways, yes.
There's also the difficulties of them partially being like indoor outdoor in some of the locations. So there's a lot of different things that they deal with in California and not in Orlando, and vice versa. So we have that. Next, we also have the Horrors of Blumhouse out there. Again, don't think it's going to be much different from what we'll have in Orlando. And then the Weekend After Hours Nightmare will make its way out there as well, and will probably be, again, the big draw in addition to Halloween.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is nice that they have a larger lineup. I mean, one tip about Hollywood, get there early. If you can do anything, they'll keep you in the parks. You can head to whatever the first houses you want. I almost said maze. You want, do that as quickly as possible, because while their park has almost as many houses as we do, their space is much more limited. So you do see the lines being 2 hours, 2.5 hours for some of those, especially as it gets closer to Halloween out there, where Halloween here seems to usually calm down a little bit. Out there, it picks up more and more.
Oh, Halloween will be busy here too, but you're right though. Like the weeks leading up to it, maybe not so much, but because we get a lot of the repeat guests like myself, that'll end up going there like 20 nights probably. Real quick, happy birthday to Sophia. Hi, Sonia. Wants us to wish a happy birthday to her sister Sophia.
Oh, happy birthday, Sophia.
Jeremiah will now go ahead and sing happy birthday.
Nope. Happy birthday to you. There you
go. So, like I said, with like we did with Orlando, we have our hype list for Hollywood as well. And here you go. And there's one option jumps out to us here, and we talked about it as we were talking about the Terror Tran. Top of my list, bottom of Jeremiah's. So what are you gonna do? Like I said, two different perspectives. Jeremiah hated working it. I get to experience something completely different. So it's going to be completely subjective depending on what your experience is like. What else jumps out at you here? We're both clearly excited to see Scarecrow again. It's number 2 on both of our lists. We're both very excited for horror hotel, number 1 on your list, number 3 on mine. So we're kind of hitting the same notes here. Killer Clowns is 4 for both of us as well. So yeah, nothing else really jumps out at you too much.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell the difference. You hadn't experienced Hollywood over and over again.
Right.
And again, my home, I love it. I'm trying to make a point to get out there just to experience horror nights out there, because it is so much fun for me to go home, but at the same time it's more fun for me to go home and go, oh, I don't miss working this. Where out here, we have, again, the blessing of space for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So we broke down the houses for both events. Kind of forgot to go through the scare zones and everything. Let's run through them real quick. We'll start with Hollywood since we're on that topic still. They're going to have El Pueblo del Terror.
I'm so glad that you got this one.
Well, I'm not going to go through all the descriptions. There's just too many to talk about. But basically, Chupacabras, La Llorona, all of the mythology mixed into one scare zone. So that should be cool. Sideshow Slaughterhouse. I mean, pretty much speaks for itself. And then Clown Saws. Again, I don't think I need to describe that one. Wait. Clowns and chainsaws.
Is it with a Z?
It is with a Z, yes.
It's always scarier with a Z. That is a proven fact.
And then, of course, you'll have the return of the Jabberwockies as well over in Universal Hollywood. In Orlando, we have 5 scare zones. I'm going to run through the names real quick. We've got Horrors of Halloween, Scarecrow Cursed Soil, Sweet Revenge, Graveyard Deadly Unrest, and Conjure the Dark. Any of those jump out to you? What are you specifically looking forward to?
Sweet Revenge, that is going to be the fun one. I cannot wait for that. Anytime they do, like, hey, we're going to turn something that's good for the kids into a scare zone, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, Sweet Revenge is the one specifically that's going to be located in the New York area. We have a story on Laughing Place right now. They actually started telling the story of this scare zone before the summer tribute store closed. They started putting newspaper clippings that would go back to the 1800s and explain this theater that was the tribute store and will be the Halloween Horror Nights tribute store pretty soon as well. But they started explaining the story of this festival that went horribly wrong, and the owner of the theater was on the run and was wanted for all of the horrible things he did at this festival. So they are now turning that into a scare zone, and we get to live out that story, which the storytelling top notch. Like it was just crazy the way that they put this all together. I love what they did there.
Yeah, and one of the things that is so great about Florida is the scare zones. Like even in the smallest scare zone, in that small walkway, they do an amazing job of putting at least one good scare in there, but the visuals are so amazing. Like I can remember a couple of years ago, I bought my iPhone specifically to go in and take pictures in that scare zone. And that's our backdrop is the pumpkins, because they do such a great job. It's not great for the day guests, but it's great for us who love it.
Right. Kyle points out they should bring back that Seek and Destroy scare zone. We all miss the controller, and we will miss the controller this year, but no Seek and Destroy in New York this year. Another scare zone I want to talk about briefly is Scarecrow Cursed Soil. We mentioned it, that it was going to be coming back, not only to Hollywood, but also in Orlando. This is located in the Central Park area, and that scare zone is always pretty similar. It's a tight, narrow walkway. There's some lights in the trees, scares coming at you from both sides. They're doing something different this year. They are building a barn and putting it in that scare zone. So you don't have the option to not walk through that barn if you don't, if you can't get through the zone. You can take a long way around the other side of the park if you want to get there, but you have to walk through this barn. So you're kind of going through a house without actually going into a house, which is really cool. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, it's nice to see them building the big props again and bringing those. I mean, we all kind of forget how they were doing those 2018, 2019, or 2018 into 2019 where it was like they had a huge barn right out where the crepe stand is, where it had different props, and they would have
Yes.
them kind of pop in and out. But this, I think, is taking it to the next level.
It is, yeah. So that was Twisted Tradition, the one you're talking about,
Mhm.
which, the scare zone located in the Central Park area. But that was just like you said, it was a prop. This is us actually going to be walking through this structure, which I'm really excited to see.
Yeah.
Two shows at this year's event as well. We got the return of Halloween Nightmare Fuel. This year's show is going to be called Wildfire. So more dancing, magic, and pyro. Lots and lots of pyro, and that'll be in the Fear Factor. Do we even call it the Fear Factor stage anymore?
I think that's what it's always going to be. I mean, sadly, it's no longer the stunt show. We should call it should be the B&T stage.
Petition to call it the Bill and Ted Theater, I think, or the Bill and Ted Amphitheater. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but that's what it should be. And then we also have the return of the Lagoon Show. Interestingly, they dropped the Marathon of Mayhem tag that was sort of the primary title of the show for the past couple of years. It is now called Ghoulish: A Halloween Tale. On a Halloween night, a ghost story becomes reality as you go beyond the grave in a spectacularly spooky show on the Universal Studios Lagoon. I love this show every year. I cannot wait to see what they do with it this year, especially if you can mix in music from the weekend. Why not? It should be a lot of fun.
I love the show, either the first or last show, if they do multiples, because they suck everybody to those, especially as it gets later in the night. If you can do, number one tip, find a time where they're doing the Lagoon Show and whatever's in the Bill and Ted Amphitheater. That's when you go hit the houses closest to those areas, because nobody is in them.
Yeah. Although don't skip this show. The Lagoon Show is always great. I will watch it over the course of the event. I will watch it probably a good 5 or 6 times, to be honest. And that's on the low side, I think. I will probably be checking it out multiple times.
Yeah, hopefully this is as fun as some of the past have been.
Yeah. Anything else on Halloween Horror Nights before we move on to a couple other events?
I don't think so. I mean, buy your tickets now. The event does sell out, both Hollywood and California. I know the frequent Fear Pass is good. Yes, Hollywood, California. It is the same place. Yes, Orlando and California and Hollywood both will sell out, especially Halloween night. Well, actually, Halloween night can be either completely empty or packed, depending on what night of the week it is. And this year, it falls on a Saturday? No, Sunday.
I think it's a Monday, actually. I could be wrong. I want to say it's a Monday. I thought it was something weird.
It is a Monday. That is weird.
Yeah.
So, yes, Halloween night in the parks in either California or Hollywood or Orlando will be very empty. Well, not very empty, but it'll mostly be us pass holders returning to take advantage to see the houses one last time, camp out for the Lagoon Show for that special. Oh, wait, never mind.
All right, so like we said, there are a few other Halloween events we want to talk about real quick, and that includes Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay's Howl-o-scream. I will warn anyone who is maybe just going for the first time. I like to tell everyone this. I think Howl-o-scream is scarier than Halloween Horror Night. I think they focus much more on the psychological. They don't pour as much into building these incredible sets. They do a great job with it. Don't get me wrong. They build some really, really great stuff, but they focus more on scaring you, on terrifying you. They come at you from different angles. You'll find scare actors on the floor, flying at you from bungees, all sorts of different things. You will never walk into a Halloween Horror Nights house and have it be silent. That will happen at Howl-o-scream.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much more psychological, much more focused on the scare. So if you want a little bit, Doobie, if you're still watching, if you want a little bit more of an intense, experience, Howl-o-scream at Busch Gardens and at SeaWorld.
Yeah, some of my favorite houses have been at Howl-o-scream. They're, every year I go out there, I think, okay, they can't do anything better. And there's always one house that just bumps it up even more. And last year there were a few.
Yeah, I didn't get out to Tampa Bay last year, but I have gone the previous 3 years, I believe. And there's always some really, really great houses that I mean, like I said, they come at you from different angles. They hit you a different way than Halloween Horror Nights does. So if you've been going to Horror Nights a few times and then you mix in Howl-o-scream, it's gonna get you. They're gonna get you one way or another.
Are we going through the list of the houses there, or are we just kind of?
If you have any specifics you want to call out, go for it. But I didn't. No, I figured we are probably running a little bit long. Didn't want to go through all of them.
No, for me, Bush has been one of those ones where I've gone the first year I went out there. I was like, oh, this isn't going to be anything. Like I said, their houses, they go above and beyond the theming, the scares. Like Max said, this is where you go for the extra scare. They only have they have 5 houses this year. The Stranglewood Estates, which is their new house. Every town has a share of ghost stories, and this is one no different. Once a lively home filled with laughter and lavish parties is now filled with darkness and the spirit of evil. Welcome to Stranglewood Estates. This one, to me, I think is going to be the people come out screaming. They always bring back houses. They have the Deathwater Bayou, Blood Moon, the final phase, which this house has been around, I want to say 2015, 2014. I actually covered it for a different website and have a scream cam. So that one was always good. The Residence, Home for the Holidays, which the Residence was a new house last year. And you went through a house, much like the first one, but this was just a regular neighborhood house. And this one, they kind of turned it into a Christmas theme. So I think that one will be lots of fun. The Forgotten last year was probably one of my favorites. We do have the scream cam of me doing that last year. That one, visually amazing, and a very long house that goes through some of the old queue of some of the attractions that are no longer there. But really, the one last year that I want to say stole the show, Witch of the Woods, and they invited us out for a kind of a sneak peek, and they showed us the set, and it takes up some of the old zoo area, like where they used to have the koalas and that kind of stuff. So they have this beautiful area. And again, this isn't Universal Hollywood where it's 5 minutes you're in and out of the house, or here where it's, maybe 7 minutes, maybe 10. Some of those houses I was walking through for 15 minutes because you just go and you hit another room and you go. And there, I think one of the things that Howl-o-scream, both SeaWorld and Busch, has above Universal is Universal doesn't have to prove itself. Busch and SeaWorld every year are out to prove themselves and to say, hey, don't forget about us. We will make you scream and run.
Yeah, and they definitely deliver on that, for sure.
This one, I would say, if you're going to come out to Florida, do this one and do Universal, of course. And then you went to SeaWorld last year, or did you make it to SeaWorld last year?
I did make it to SeaWorld last year. Before we move on to SeaWorld, though, real quick, Tracy has a question. Do they have sliders at Busch Garden? They have in the past, correct? In some of the scare zones?
Yeah.
So you'll see them sliding around. And speaking of the scare zones, too, there's one. It's not even an official scare zone. It's actually just one area of the park where it's.
I know. Before you even talk about it, I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, it's very dark, and there are bushes that line both sides, and the scare actors get in there with their ghillie suits, and they just kind of shake things, and you never know where they're going to be. It's so great. Like it's one of my favorite elements of any scare event anywhere. So it's a lot of fun.
And them just sitting there, and I've gone, like, one of the great things about Busch is if you go early in the year, it's very, very low crowds because Tampa is Tampa, where Universal here attracts from all around the world.
Sure.
Out in Tampa, it's much more locals and us who like to drive out there and do it. So I've been in those scare zones with like a handful of people, and they do it. They go above and beyond out there.
Absolutely. Like you said, we also have Howl-o-scream going on at SeaWorld. This will be the second year for SeaWorld Orlando. First year for SeaWorld San Diego, correct? Is that what did they do it last year?
They did it last year also.
They did it last year. Okay. Mm-hmm. So and it's for both Tampa and SeaWorld in Orlando, September 9th to October 31st. San Diego starts a little bit later, September 16th through October 31st. So, but SeaWorld, they did such an awesome job last year. This year, they're opening it up a little bit more. It's going to take up a little bit more of the park. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some more of that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this year. Sadly, last year with everything going on, like, we joked that the world opened up last year during Halloween time. I feel like this year is going to be even more so. So I may actually even buy the annual pass for both SeaWorld and Busch so I can make it out a couple of times, because, after everybody's review of SeaWorld here last year, I definitely am looking forward to it. And their houses always seem to be, just like with Busch, they ramp it up some more. They have the Sirens of the Seas, which the siren is kind of their icon.
Yeah. More or less, yeah.
Yeah, really just people screaming a lot. The Blood Beckoning reimagined Deadly Vines, which I heard great things about last year. Mm-hmm. Captain's Revenge, and Beneath the Ice, which Beneath the Ice is the one I'm glad it's not reimagined. It's going to be what it was last year, because that was the one that I think I missed out on the most doing. Yeah. Everybody said how well that one was set up.
That was my favorite house last year. It was incredible. It was terrifying. There were scares, like I said, for Howl-o-scream, it's just scares coming from every angle. Unique sound design in that. You have those rooms that are silent, and then you have those rooms that are just nonstop, loud noise. So it was really, really a fun house, and Tony even agrees too. Beneath the Ice was fantastic. So yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite houses, I think, from any horror event last year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to definitely making it over there. I have the list for the SeaWorld California, if you do not.
I do not. Yeah, go ahead.
So SeaWorld San Diego has 3 houses. SeaWorld San Diego is different than SeaWorld here because they don't have a lot of the indoor space, because out there it's San Diego, which is always perfect weather. They have the Nightmare Experiment. You are the subject of a secret experimental project run amok. Find safety before the doctor finds you. Deathwater Bayou, kind of sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Escape the black, murky waters of your nightmares only to fall under the curse of the evil swamp witch. This one, and to put in the plug, SeaWorld San Diego, couple of years, probably early 20s, they did one scary house, and it was included with your admission to the park, but it wasn't an event. Like, it was during the day, and I was lucky enough to make it out there and experience it, and it was a fun attempt at it. I know 2 of the people that are putting this event together, and I know their love, so I can only imagine how much fun it is this year. And this is the house that I really like. If I can make it to San Diego, I will do it. Simon's Slaughterhouse, an abandoned meat packing plant with a sordid history, serves you up your worst fears.
This is one that they have done with Busch Gardens Tampa in the past.
The slaughterhouse with the smells, and you load it into that was one of those ones that I came out of that going, that was probably one of the most mentally disturbing houses I think I've ever been in. They have some scare zones which sound fun. They have deadly toys. These aren't like the dolls you grew up with. Playtime starts now, and it's not over until they've had their fun. The Hauntings, Graveyard, and speaking of the lore that transfers from coast to coast, if you had to choose one of the things that I've talked about that I've rolled my eyes probably more times than anything for a house, what would you guess is a scare zone in San Diego?
Wait, say that again. For a house, what would I think is a scare zone?
No, they turned La Llorona. Yes, I
Oh.
said it into a scare zone out there. So that's one of those ones that I just look at and go, you're right across the border from Mexico, and this, I'm not making any jokes. I'm not saying anything. I've trust me been there where it's, hey, you can do that crossover and get everybody visiting, and you have that one scare zone that everybody goes, yes, we got to do that. So I think that could be pretty well done.
So yeah, again, Howl-o-scream coming to SeaWorld Orlando and Busch Gardens Tampa Bay on select nights, September 9th through October 31st, and then begins at SeaWorld San Diego September 16th through October 31st. Jeremiah, I'm going to let you have the floor for this one because our final event we're going to be talking about is Knott Scary Farm. There was no good promotional image for Knott Scary Farm. This is the best I could get, so there you go. I'm not even entirely sure who this character is, but I have never experienced Knott's Scary Farm. I've actually never really experienced Knott's Berry Farm in general. It was only for the food festival, before theme parks were fully open again in 2020. I got to experience some of the food, but not so much the actual park itself. So tell me all about Knott's Scary Farm.
So Knott's Scary Farm is the granddaddy. This is one of the characters. No, Tony. They have characters that have been around for decades. They have, if you grew up in Southern California, Knott's Scary Farm was where your life was, usually in between October 1st through the end of the month. Now, just like with everybody else, they are going starting September. Let me get the date.
September 22nd.
Thank you. My screen just wanted to sit there. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 houses. I'm sorry. They have 9 mazes. Yes, they still call them mazes there. And then multiple scare zones, Carnival, Forsaken Lake, Ghost Town Streets, which the Ghost Town is the iconic part of Knott's Scary Farm, Goring 20s, and the Hollow, which I'm sad that Carnival isn't going to be bigger and expand into the entire park, because they take carnival clowns and turn it into a scare zone back in their pier area. But I've been doing this every year with the exception of 1 year. When I moved out here, I will go back for Knott's Scary Farm, and they don't have IP. There have been years where they've had some IP. This is all original, and they don't have massive buildings like Universal does where they can hide houses. They build their mazes along walkways into areas that you would never think you can walk through and be scared. Some of the houses, some of the mazes, this is going to be difficult. Dark entities, which is, and let me read you the description of this. Teleport beyond Earth and into the realm where the darkness is absolute. In the depths of space, a lone station faces terror beyond all imagination. An extraterrestrial mutation has invaded the station, and it's on the prowl for new hosts. The unearthly inhabitants' force increases as it feeds on its unwilling victims. Escape the dark entities before its deathly force eliminates all life forms aboard the station. There's nowhere to escape when time is running out. You can go to the Knott's Scary Farm site, and they have promotional videos for it. This maze just blew me away. Like, you are very much on a space station. You're walking through, and Universal uses sounds, scare actors, water effects, giant puppets, everything.
Water effects at Universal? No. What are you?
No, this is Knott's. They'll have, of course, the dangles, but you will get wet walking through some of these mazes at Knott's, and they're just so much fun. like I said, this is one of the main reasons why I go back home is to do Not Scary Farm. One of the most iconic rides that they've been doing, I want to say this is the 5th year, and I believe this is the last year because they'll run through their mazes a couple of years. Like one year it'll be the start, the next year they'll change it up with some of the different story elements. The 3rd year they'll usually find a way to reverse it, so you're going through backwards, so everything goes over and over again isn't there, they don't know what to expect. And then they'll change out the house. It's usually 3 to 4 years, but this one with the pandemic has been around for a while, and it's also one of the best ones. Dark Ride Castle of Chaos. Journey through an abandoned carnival ride where cruel carny folks still linger in the shadows in Dark Ride Castle of Chaos. The carnival has become a refuge for freaks and carnies. Now those shunned performers have created a dark world of terror which they plan to unleash on those who enter. This maze, you walk in, and it is like if you have ever gone on some of the old dark rides at Disney, where there's the center track and you walk through the different rooms, that is what you're walking into. And then you get past the point where you cross into the maintenance area and that kind of stuff. And they keep it very much like it was created for a attraction. And it's one of their theaters, so they have full control over lighting, sound, everything. And just again, when you walk in, the theme is so rich. You get lost and you're looking at everything around you, and then you're getting bombarded by left and right. And Knott's doesn't do Universal style with the hit the switch, light goes, jump. Right. Their characters will be everywhere, much like Busch Gardens and SeaWorld is, where you never know where they'll come from. And especially Dark Ride, the maintenance bay is so massive, you'll walk around a maze of the maintenance bay where they'll have cars, so it directs you which way to go. And in this scene, you may see somebody up here, but as you come around the next corner, that person is on a bungee and comes down at you. Or somebody will come screaming through the entire room at you. So they never rest on their laurels. They know that Universal is now the person in charge of everything, but Knott's is the one that started it all. I want to go over 2 more of the houses because this one was probably my favorite, and it's Mesmer Sideshow of the Mind. I really wish I could show you the logo for this because it is very cool.
Go ahead. I'll see if I can find it while you're describing it.
Here, hang on. I can just send you the link. This is how professional we are, gang. We do this on the fly. But this house is like you're walking into a sideshow. The description: within the canvas tent lies the secret of the most potent force in the universe, the human mind. Give in and succumb to the hypnotist Mesmer and his sinister sideshow. Now we just need Scream Squad. As it goes after your hidden fears. When I went into this last, I don't think it was last year, but at the same time, it wasn't 2 years ago. I want to say we actually had the video up, so it must have been last year. And the different rooms, and again, they create their own environment, so they have plenty of space to do with whatever they want. And they have the dark rooms with the people that are sitting there against the walls with eyeballs over them and eyeballs all over the room. So you're not paying attention to the guy with the eyeballs sitting there that jumps at you. Yeah.
There is Mesmer.
You can scroll down and show the video. They don't do a lot of gore.
I have to figure that out first with the audio, but
yeah, warning, we have not pre-watched these videos yet, but
horse will die. And we say so, and we know so. Oh man, your horse will die. Oh. Phineas! Phineas! Where's my damn drink, boy? Where's this?
Half your whiskey, sir.
How long does it take?
Sorry, sir.
I tell you, you're good for nothing. What are you good for?
What am I good for? I have succeeded where you failed.
Okay, we can stop it because I don't want it to get to the point where we get told we can never do this again. But yeah, they go in and tell the stories through these fun little vignettes that they film, and the cast, like I said, has been there for years. So they get into these characters, they live the characters. The last maze out there for me was the maze when I first walked into it years ago, was completely blown away, and that's the depths. This may sound a little familiar because they may have recreated it in a few other places over the past few years. A heavy fog drapes over an abandoned port village where ancient creatures lurk inside the pitch black underground caves hidden below the seaside shores. The Night Watch mining crew has mysteriously disappeared, and the village rumors point to the eerie tunnels the town sits upon. Myths of the terrifying horrors that lurk within the caves have often been whispered but never confirmed. So this one kind of redefined a maze for me, because you would walk through the normal bits and then you walked into a major room that had lasers and smoke, so it looked like there was water. So I mean, you look down and you're like, am I stepping in the water? And they would actually have the scare actors laying down, reaching their hands up and grabbing people. Yeah, so not grabbing people, but they would do that. Tracy, I do love pumpkin eaters, but it's not one of the ones that I'm like, I have to talk about. And we've already talked about a few different pumpkin options. Knott's Scary Farm is a reason to go out to California. It's, to me, it is the Universal out here where I go out there just to do that. If I had to choose between Universal Hollywood or Knott's Scary Farm, Knott's Scary Farm would be my number one choice, just because the entire park is transformed. I mean, yes, they'll have the coasters going in the dark, and there will be some areas that aren't so scary, but they go all out. Tracy has been somebody who's been going for most of her lifetime, and she knows how amazing it is. And then you can also do Six Flags Fright Fest, the Haunted Hayride at Griffith Park. California has so many different options for Halloween. You could plan a vacation out there and not do the same thing twice. We're here in Orlando. Yes, we have Horror Nights. Yes, we have Not So Scary, and we have some of the smaller offerings, but it is not the scare central of the US.
See, that's so funny because I find it to be the exact opposite. It feels like there's such a Halloween culture here in Central Florida. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really feel like that exists as much in California. But, you know, again, different perspectives where we've lived in different places. Yeah. Also, I want to point out while you're talking about it too, you know, we have some of those smaller offerings. Check out your local haunts. If you're into this sort of thing, there are always some local events going on nearby. I have one, a petrified forest right down the street that is one of the best I've ever been to. And it's just cool to support those little local events like that too. So it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, because Knott's Scary Farm, when it started, was a one night thing, and now it has grown into multiple months. Just like Horror Nights here in Florida started as just a few nights, and they've expanded into, you know, almost year round. That'll be epic. But yes, make sure you go check out those. There, especially in California, people find ways to do full houses, mazes in their backyard. That's not something that happens here. I want to say it's more of just the community there and the neighborhoods. But find what you can go do. Go out, go do the weird things that you've never heard of that you can, because that's how you get experience. And I've done some things that are 100 times scarier than anything you'll experience at a theme park, and then I've done some that I walk away still talking about today because it was such a joke, but it was fun.
That took a turn. That was not where I.
No.
All right, let's wrap things up with a good question from Mr. Bob Newell. Kind of sum things up here. Which park has the best Halloween event?
Well, shall we answer each other's? I mean, yours is Horror Nights.
It is Universal Studios Florida for me, no question. It is honestly a big reason of why I moved to Orlando. So it's that's the premier show for me, and I have a feeling yours is going to be Knott's Scary Farm.
It is, and that is only because I'm so far away from it. I mean, when I used to live out there, I would go twice per year. That was before they started doing the season passes for it. And I think, again, one of the things that makes it special is going that one time, and you only get to do, you're forced to wait in the line for everything. You have to do it all. And I think the reason that Universal out here isn't at the top of my list is because it is in my backyard. I still love it. It is still something that I look forward to above and beyond everything else in the Orlando area. But if I had to choose Knott's Scary Farm, the granddaddy of them all.
Yeah, totally fair. Great logic. I mean, the fact that it's not something you get to do 20 times a year makes perfect sense. I wish I felt the same way about Fright Fest and Six Flags Great Adventure, but it's just not at the same level. So I'm not going back up to New Jersey for that one.
I've done Six Flags Magic Mountain, their Fright Fest. And while they had some fun activities, it really was like, you're going into your local carnival at times. There goes our Six Flags promotion.
When we're comparing it to things like Knott's Scary Farm and Universal's Halloween Horror Nights, it's not fair. Like, they do a great job. Yes. It's just, not every quarterback is going to be Tom Brady, right? Like, it's going to be, it's comparing it to the very best there is in the world. So there you go. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us for this preview of the Halloween season. Again, it's August 22nd. I know it seems a little bit early, but September 2nd really kicks things off with the start of Halloween Horror Nights here at Universal Studios Florida. And then we get into all of those other events with Hollywood starting the week after. Busch Gardens, SeaWorld's Howl-o-scream will be kicking off then as well. Knott's Scary Farm later on in September. So a busy couple of months for us theme park / horror fans for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mac, for being in charge of this. I came up with this idea and I said, hey, Mac, you know how to do this. You do all that. So I'm glad that this worked out. Hopefully, if everybody likes it, please like, subscribe, share. Please share this video with your friends. I mean, this is how, this turns into, from us to just talking to a handful of you guys to next year we do multiple versions of this. And hopefully you all enjoyed it. Those of you who didn't, please leave comments saying you did anyway.
And again, we will be at most, if not all, of these events, bringing you coverage throughout the spooky season. So keep an eye out for all of that, and hopefully you guys get to enjoy some events yourselves.
Absolutely. Please.
We have Park Talk Live coming up later today. That is at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Jeremiah will be back to talk about. Right, you're on today? I'm not.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So
you're on too, aren't you? Didn't you know?
with Doobie, Rebecca, and Mike Celestino, they'll be talking about parks news that doesn't involve murder and ghosts and skeletons.
I think we still may talk about.
We'll see. All right. And again, we also have plenty of Mickey's Not So Scary coverage, both on our YouTube channel and on laughingplace.com. So if you want to check out the not so scary side of Halloween, you can do that as well. But we will be back later on to talk about some more parks news, and we will see you all soon. Bye, everyone.